Hello once again, 22 Facebook subscribers and 25 YouTube subscribers.
368 Hotel with you, 4,500.
We're currently on our way to Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport in San Diego. Going to drop off my brother a little care package of hand sanitizer and cookies. One thing that we've been meaning to do is last August, we went to Hawaii and rented an airplane. And every time I bring it up at the airport, people have questions about how that went, what was the experience, and what we needed to do to make that happen. So we're going to review the top 6 pointers I have for flying a rental aircraft in Hawaii.
Okay, so number 1, you want to find a location that you want to rent from. Very important to call ahead. Make sure you have time flying in the type of plane you want to rent. Bring your driver's license, your pilot's license, bring your medical form and your logbook with you.
In and around Honolulu, there's a surprising number of rental aircraft locations to choose from. Prices vary between location and specific aircraft, so you really want to do your homework on this. It's going to save you hundreds. Shout out to George's out of the Honolulu airport. They had some really great rates, super nice people. I chose George's because of their vicinity to the Waikiki resort area, and they had their prices up front on their website. When I called them, they're real clear, real honest. I was able to speak to the CFI that was actually going to be giving me the check ride, and was very knowledgeable. And they have a huge fleet of 172s. They got some Pipers and Diamonds in there as well. But I have 40 hours in 172, which is basically the Toyota Corolla of the sky. So it was a no-brainer for me to choose them. Also, once I made some calls around to see if I can rent something from a little bit further out to another airport, the prices were definitely more expensive. And when you factor in the cost of getting there and just the pain of it all when you're on vacation, didn't make sense. So I stuck with George's. And if you're looking at the prices and you're like, wow, that's way too much, I don't pay that much in blah, 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 you know, middle of nowhere America. It doesn't matter. You're in Hawaii. You're paying top dollar with everything. Everything's going to be more expensive anyways. So of all the locations, they were the cheapest for me at that time. It may change in the future. You do the research. An interesting comment that was made to me was that they don't turn people away because of failed check rides. They don't know how to fly the airplane. More people are turned away from renting an aircraft because they forgot a driver's license or they forgot their logbook and they're not able to prove that they have a current medical, you know, all that stuff. So make sure you bring the proper documentations: driver's license, passport, logbook, medical. What else I forget? I think that's it. Oh yeah, pilot's license. And they're going to scan it all, so make sure that it's legible.
Number 2, complete a check ride.
Just like any other time you rent an airplane, whether it's a flying club or a company, an FBO, you got to get checked out with it. So my tip here is to get that check ride as soon as you arrive in Hawaii. I arrived on Thursday, and Friday morning I was going to get that check ride because with everything going on, you know, something's going to come up. You're going to get tickets to somewhere, you're going to be stuck on the beach, something's going to happen where you're not going to want to get that check ride. Shout out to my friend Alan, the CFI that gave me the check ride. Moved out there, he's a transplant now, just living the dream.
Number 3, memorize the approaches.
For me, this was kind of a big one because keep in mind, Honolulu is a Class B airport. They got a lot of approaches, and normally, under normal circumstance, not talking about any pandemic type situation, they have a lot of activity. Air traffic control is very short. They're quick, concise, but they also get frustrated. There's a lot of international travel. I myself had a hard time understanding some of the transmissions that were being given, so there's a lot of repeats, and the last thing what they want to do is be dealing with problems from GA. The good news is the approaches are very simple. The departures are very simple. You just got to know which ones you're going to be using. That's also a good thing for the check ride also, because the CFI will review with you the 2 approaches and the 2 departures that you got to learn. Just depends on one approach coming from the east, one approach coming from the west, one departure coming from the east, one departure coming from the west, and that's it. The only exception is if you're gonna be traveling there during trade winds, when they change direction, and then you just got to learn the other approaches coming from the other direction.
Number 4, plan your route, time and travel, and your frequencies. Mindful of the cost.
We're not talking about flight planning. Everybody knows how to flight plan. We're talking about maximizing your enjoyment while you're taking a once-in-a-lifetime trip around the islands to take a look at things you've never seen before. So you want to make sure that you do everything ahead of time so that you spend more time looking outside and not looking at maps or checking what frequency you're supposed to be dialing up on, where you're supposed to be making your callbacks. You want to be able to do all that ahead of time, have it planned so you know where you're going, what you're doing, and you're not wasting any time doing 360s, wasting money while you're trying to figure out where you're going next. And at George's, they told me this, but I thought I did a good job, but I didn't. When I was up in the air, I was finally flying. I mean, there's just so much more planning I could have done. Landmarks and just, I just have, that's probably one of my biggest regrets. There's just so many places to go and things to see, and we would have saw more and probably paid less if I would have just planned better.
Okay, so number 5 is going to be practice the words, and when we practice the words is the way that they speak is different and pronunciation is hard, so always practice beforehand.
I'll be the first to admit it. I butchered some of those words, and when given position checks no less than 3 times I was corrected by other aircraft because they didn't really know where I was because I couldn't pronounce the word right. So once you have the route planned and you know where you're going and you have your checkpoints and all that stuff, find a local native Hawaiian, somebody that knows how to pronounce some of these words, and ask them how they pronounce it. Take notes so that you don't make a fool of yourself like I did.
Okay, number 6, arrive at least 30 minutes early. You need to complete your paperwork. You need to make sure you bring your headset. Give your passengers a briefing of what's going to happen. And finally, you're going to do a thorough pre-check inspection.
This is not your airplane. This is not even the airplane you're familiar with. There are a lot of people that rent these airplanes and a lot of people that don't want to pay to fix something if they break something. So I cannot stress enough that you need to show up early and you need to do a thorough pre-trip inspection of your airplane. The airplane you're seeing right now in this video, it's not the airplane I was checked out with. I was originally supposed to get a Cessna 172 SP, and the battery was dead when we showed up early. So luckily they had this one available, pretty old, still a 172. I think it was like an N or a P, instead of 4 people, reduced gross the weight, so it could only take 3 people, and we still just tried to make the best of it. But a lot of things going on with this airplane, nothing that put it out of service. It's still airworthy, but I did have a radio failed. The number 1 radio failed on takeoff, class Bravo. ATC was pretty pissed off about that. What are you going to do? We switched over to number 2, kept going. Oh, and it was short 1.5 quarts of oil. But in the end, it was a good plane. It got the job done. It was airworthy, and we were happy. So after that whole start, it's easy to see how even 30 minutes may not be enough. You may need an hour, because I know we took off about 30 minutes after we had planned. Last note on this one, if you're using their headphones, at George's at least, they didn't have alcohol wipes to wipe it down, so we had to kind of improvise with it. So bring alcohol wipes. They don't have them.
And we're going to add a number 7 is remember to have fun, enjoy yourself, and bring sunblock because it's going to get hot, and some water. You need some water in the plane. Yeah.
It's
always bring some water. It always comes in handy.